All right, good afternoon, friends. We have been talking about all different kinds of weather, and each morning we are plotting on our graph what kind of weather we're seeing each day. So, one of the questions that we can ask about weather is weather can change from day to day. How do we know what that weather is going to be like each day? Well, there is a special person whose job it is and it's a weather scientist, and they're called a meteorologist. And you just watched a little video about how the little girl wants to be a meteorologist. Well, a meteorologist is that person that helps us to prepare for how the weather can change from day to day. What they do is they study the weather. They watch how the weather happens over time, and they watch for patterns so that they're able to say, well, during the spring season, in the past, we've had a lot of rain and wind, and the weather starts to get a little bit warmer during the day, but in the morning it's still a little bit chilly. So they're able to see how that can repeat over and over again, how that weather can repeat. And they keep track of that. So then as they're studying the weather, they're able to make a prediction for what our weather is going to be like each day, which is helpful to us then, because if we are planning on having a picnic, it's helpful if the meteorologist is able to say, today's going to be pretty rainy, so if you're planning something outside, you might want to plan it for tomorrow because it seems like it's going to be sunny tomorrow. Okay, so a meteorologist is a weather scientist who studies the weather and the patterns, those repeating things in the weather, to help us plan better for when we're trying to figure out what to do, where to go, what kind of clothing we want to wear for the day. It's helpful if they say, well, it's going to be pretty rainy today, so you want to carry your umbrella with you. Okay, so that is what a meteorologist does. They are a scientist and they study the weather. Okay. Now, meteorologists can use all different kinds of tools to be able to measure and study the weather. And so what we're going to do is, these are in your science workbook, so you can take a look with me if you would like. We're not going to do anything on the pages, but I'm just going to show you. You can also just watch. This is called a thermometer, and it takes the temperature. So like when you're sick and mom uses a thermometer to see if you have a fever, well, she's seeing how hot your body is. Temperature is how hot or cold something is. A thermometer measures temperature. Now, mom usually isn't measuring your temperature to see how cold you are. She's checking to see if you have a fever. So that's when you would be using a temperature. Now, if you take a look at the thermometers, if the thermometer is really down low, the red part is really down low, that means it is really cold outside. So you would see this kind of temperature maybe when it is in the winter, very good, or the fall, right? Late fall, winter, when it's snowing and it's cold outside. Okay, so it's important to look at the temperature because then you know what kind of clothes you want to wear, right? When I look at a thermometer like this and the red part is up high, that means that the temperature is going up. It means that it is warmer. So when it's really down low, that temperature is cold. It's like 32 degrees, snowy, windy, cold weather. More what we would see in the fall and the winter. Spring, summer is when our temperatures start to rise. So meteorologists look at thermometers to look, and they keep watching that repeating pattern of during the fall and the winter, those temperatures fall to be cold, and in the spring and summer, those temperatures start to rise because we're starting to see warmer temperatures in the spring and summer. We can also have a rain gauge. If you look at this, you can look very carefully. A rain gauge measures how much rain has fallen. So a meteorologist would be able to keep a rain gauge and say, well, during the months of March and April, we seem to get a lot of rain. So they're able to predict then the next year, they're able to make a prediction that you might really want to be carrying an umbrella during the spring season this year, because when I look at patterns of springs before, a lot of rain has fallen into my rain gauge. So I think spring might be a pretty rainy season. So thermometers and rain gauges are two tools that a meteorologist can use to measure or track weather. Another one that they could do is called a wind sock or a wind vane. What the wind sock does is it shows if it's windy. And if you look, it's blowing. And so it's blowing in the direction that that wind is blowing, because the wind is going inside of that wind sock where it's empty and it's filling that space. So it's making the wind sock point in the direction of the wind. So the meteorologist is able to say, if you live over here, the wind is really blowing where you live. A wind vane can also tell us where the wind is blowing from. So a wind sock shows you that it's windy. The wind vane, see how it has these directions on it, north, south, east, and west? Those are directions. We really haven't talked about that much, but that's able to tell the meteorologist where the wind is coming from. Okay, so thermometers, rain gauges, and wind socks and wind vanes are all tools that meteorologists can use to track the weather. Now, there are some very famous meteorologists, and one that I would like to mention to you today, her name is June Bacon Bursey, and I'm going to show you a picture of her in our science workbook. Okay? She was the first African-American woman to ever earn a degree in meteorology. That means that she was the first African-American woman to study to be a weather scientist and to get a degree from a college in it. She was also the first woman meteorologist on TV. For a long time, it was only men that were meteorologists, weather scientists on TV. And so she was the first of both of those. She was the first African-American woman to become a weather scientist and get a degree for it. She was also the first first woman meteorologist on TV. So, and the thing that I learned about her that I thought was the coolest thing is she was a teacher. She spent a lot of time teaching. So, what I would like you to do is to turn the page, and on page 204 right here, okay, I would like you to be a weather scientist for the day, or a meteorologist if we want to use that big word. And what I'd like you to do is I would like you to draw a picture of you being the meteorologist and draw a picture of what the weather looks like today as you're the meteorologist. Now, it doesn't have to be the weather that we're having outside. You are going to pretend like you are on the TV. This is your TV screen right here. You are going to be the meteorologist, and you are telling people what the weather is going to be like today. And you're going to show me one of those tools. You're going to show me the thermometer, the wind sock, or the rain gauge. And you're going to show one of those tools that the meteorologist uses in your picture. And you're going to tell me which tool in your picture you used to make your weather forecast for the day. So, what I should see is I should see a picture of you. I should see what the weather looks like, maybe like have a window and showing me what the weather looks like in your weather forecast. And then I should see one of those tools. So you can go back a couple pages in your science workbook and you can find those pictures there on page 196 and 197 of a thermometer, rain gauge, or a wind sock or wind vane. And in your picture, I should see you, what the weather is today when you're on TV broadcasting the weather to me, and which tool you used to determine that weather. If it's rainy, did you use a rain gauge to say it's going to be really rainy today because there's a lot of rain in my rain gauge? Is it really sunny and you're showing the sun and people outside? And are you showing me a thermometer with the red part going all the way up to the top because the temperatures are hot? Is it cold? Are you showing me snow in your picture and then the thermometer and the red is all the way down to the bottom because it's really, really cold? Or is it really windy and you're showing me kites and people swinging around in the wind and you're showing me a wind sock? So I am going to be looking for those things in your weather forecast tomorrow on Flipgrid. All right, good job, friends.